there's one question I need to ask you.
Oh God.
Did you back Jonbon anti-post?
Yes, I have backed Jonbon anti-post. Yeah.
Did you back
25
Jonbon
to 1?
at 25 plus?
Yeah, 25 to 1 exactly.
I thought I could rile you before you started.
No. Honestly, you can't. Yeah, so I'm not talking through my pocket with this. I'm talking as a punter, looking at the markets. Now. So what we're looking at? I just want to break this down bit by bit because it's easier to do it over video than it is to do it over a small tweet. Okay, so currently Jonbon is around 7 to 4 with some firms, favourite for the Supreme. I think he's not like 9 to 4 with Betfair, etc. So after Jonbon's performance in the Kennelgate, for those that don't know, I read a tweet that says that I really don't like him. I think he's had things all his own way yet again. With that ridiculously slow gallop in a race that we could have learned plenty, we've learned little. He will continue to be underpriced every time, and Constitution Hill won't batter an eyelid. Okay, that tweet got a great response, but a largely negative response, saying that I hate the horse and I dislike him and all sorts of things. But I don't. And the reason I was annoyed that they went such a slow pace is because at Cheltenham at the festival, it's a championship pace. It's even got its own name because they go a relentless gallop from start to finish. Now, do you want to be backing a horse that at 7 to 4 right now for the Supreme Novice Hurdle that has not proven he can go a fast pace, let alone a championship pace? Okay, so I want to try and break this down bit by bit. It's not that I hate Jonbon. I think he could potentially be very good. He's got potential. But as a punter, you need to back horses on what they've achieved, specifically on what they've achieved that has not been seen by the masses, to make a profit on a horse and get the value on the price. Okay, so I just want to go through what Jonbon's achieved, break it down, look at his official rating. I'll be as quick as I can, but I want to be as clear as I can. Okay, so the first thing we look at is the Ascot race. Okay, it was very competitive before the off. A field of 5 runners, ratings of 144, 130, 132, and 138. Okay, Jonbon is won by 2 1/4 lengths, and he's been eased down towards the finish to win the race. Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is look at the horses that he's beaten and their official ratings to work out what sort of level he's actually run to when doing this. So Colonial Mustard is a horse that I thought would go quite well in the race. I tipped him up before the race. But if you dissect Colonial Mustard, who's been beaten 2 1/4 lengths, we're going to try and get a level on what Jonbon's achieved. So Colonial Mustard given an official rating by the English handicap of 144. Before this run, he was rated 136 in Ireland. So the English handicap, as we know, always gives these horses a little bit extra. It's given them £8 here. Now, prior to coming into this race, Colonial Mustard had won a maiden at Galway. Got off the market. A maiden was well below his best, recording an RPR of just 120 to win that day on soft ground. Prior to that, his 2 runs in Grade 1 and Grade 2 company had been beaten by Echoes in Rain, and he'd been beaten very easily. Echoes in Rain is rated 143. Okay, so let's just say Echoes in Rain came over to England, should be given what, £6 or £7 perhaps, 148-ish. I mean, even if she was given the same £8, 151. But she very, very easily beat Colonial Mustard. Okay, so you can go back through Colonial Mustard's form and you can say, okay, he's not going to be a top notcher. He's a decent horse, but he's not going to be a supreme candidate. He was beaten 12 lengths also by Ballyadam Down Royal last October. So rating Jonbon's performance at Ascot through a rating of 144 for Colonial Mustard just wouldn't really work because he's not really achieved that rating of 144. So then we drop back to Nappers Hill and we look at him. This horse is a very nice horse for Paul Nicholls. I think I said before the race that it was very hard to talk about Nappers Hill in the same breath as the Supreme Novice Hurdle. He's a nice horse, that's for sure. 3 for 3 own bumpers, a winner of 2 of his 3 starts over hurdles. We go back to his run at Wincanton, the 3rd Earth Company has come out. He's actually improved because that was his seasonal return, but he's improved and he's gone on. He's won off a mark of 127. You go back before that at Chepstow, he's not produced one winner. But let's just say, for his argument's sake, that Nappers Hill, who looks about right on 130, is a fair rating, yeah? Now, he's been beaten 5 lengths, Nappers Hill, in this particular race. Now, let's double that because Jonbon was eased down. He's been beaten 10 lengths. So that gives Jonbon an official rating of 140, just on that small little bit of maths, right? The last 10 winners of the Supreme, 9 of the last 10 winners of the Supreme, something like that, have been rated 152 plus. Okay, so Jonbon already on that one performance needs to improve at least, what, £10? Perhaps I'm being harsh there, but he needs to improve. So what we do after we look at the form, we go to the clock, not for confirmation of his ability, but for reassurance that this horse is going to go a good clip, going to be able to sustain his run through a really fastly run Supreme Novice Hurdle. Okay, and then we look back at that Ascot run, and we can compare that Ascot run to the horse that ran on the card over 2 miles 5 furlongs. Okay, a horse called Party Business. The circuit time for Jonbon was actually 2.4 lengths faster than Party Business. But let's not forget, Jonbon ran over 2 miles, Party Business ran over 2 miles 5 furlongs. From 4 furlongs out to the finish, Jonbon was 14 lengths faster than Party Business. All looking very good, right? But the one thing that tells us straight away is that the race was run at a sprint. It turned into a sprint. Okay, so if the 2 mile 5 race is going to go the same clip as the 2 mile race on their second circuit, then, you know, it tells us this race is turning into a bit of a sprint. Everyone knows it's turning into a bit of a sprint. I'm not telling you anything new there. Anyway, but he was well positioned in that particular race to turn this into a sprint. He was on the front end. From 2 out to the finish, Jonbon was only 0.88 lengths faster. So less than a length faster than Party Business, who had run over 2 miles 5. So the whole point of that particular time figure and looking at those times is that Jonbon has managed to go from 4 out to the line very fast, right? Or from 4 out to 2 out very fast. But from 2 out to the line, it's not gone as quick as the eye visually will tell you. So he's not answered the question whether he can sustain that sort of figure for the whole of 2 miles. That would be a big concern if you're backing anything in the Supreme Novice Hurdle at 7-4 favourite. Now, visually, it's very impressive, and he could have plenty more to come. He's having some vast improvement, but he really does need to improve, you know, to warrant his current price in the market. Now, I think a lot of people have argued with me to say that the horse was a machine and he's spectacular, but they've also agreed with me to say that his price is too short, which really makes absolutely no sense. If he's a machine and he's going to win the Supreme, then, you know, you should be backing his price. But that's not the case. I also think that the form of the British novices again this year is not up to scratch, other than the likes of Constitution Hill and perhaps Jonbon. So they're 2 standout horses. Now, they are probably beating average horses, so they need to improve. There is half of Ireland to come out yet. Still on this 18th of December, there's still half of Ireland to come out and show what they can do. I actually feel like Colonial Mustard was a white horse to finish second. I think he might be a 2.5 mile horse. So I don't think this slow pace suited him when he was held up at the rear of the field. I have LS Bell not running above a mark of 132 over hurdles, and her form hasn't worked out. So when we look at this, I like to move it. It was carrying a penalty. It was 13 lengths behind, back in fifth, mark of 138. You cannot rate that form around that horse because he simply hasn't run nowhere near that level of 138. So you have to rate it around Nappers Hill, which is 130. So I just don't understand why people are getting so excited about Jonbon when he is yet to record any time figure. I mean, you can go back through all of his form. Even his bumper was something like, I don't know, 6 lengths slower than the hurdle race on the card won by Lord Baddesley, who's rated 130. 6 lengths slower in a bumper. So that actually would concur with the 140, between 140 and 145 mark. So he still needs to improve to win the Supreme. But the bookmakers have priced him up like he is unstoppable around 7-4, 9-4. Now, the thing I would just say about that is I'm not crabbing the horse. The horse is open to vast improvement. But as a punter, these are exactly the type of horses that you need to be questioning and need to be against to get value in the race somewhere else. If something is too short in the market, there's value somewhere else. So instead of riding the wave with everybody else and being on this bandwagon that everybody seems to want to be on, look for something else other than that. And this is particularly or specifically the reason why falsely run races drive me insane, because a lot of the question marks on the actual tweet were, well, do you not think he'll be better in a stronger run race? Do you not think he's having to make all his own money and do this, that? Well, the point is, we don't know. And do you want to be backing a 7-4 favourite for a Supreme Novice Hurdle that you don't know whether he'll be able to go that strong early gallop? That's the complete point I'm making. It's not about me hating the horse. I'm not got an endeavour against this horse. I'm speaking as a punter, and I'm just trying to give it a little bit of advice. Until something like Jonbon does it, then he hasn't, and that's the long and short of it, really. There's loads more I could go into about this particular race and his Newbury run prior to that, where I mean, Good Risk at All was hyped up to be a very good horse, and he can't jump a hurdle. I mean, it all really stems back to a Newbury bumper. With Good Risk at All, I like to move it and all that. So you're taking that one form line, spreading it, and trying to rate other horses around that particular form line. When in honest truth, that form line is just not as good as people think it is. Just because horses win next time out doesn't mean it's a form line that's going to sustain itself through the whole of the season. It's actually early season form, and it's just not worked out. So my point being, Jonbon, great horse, lovely horse. Terrible price for the Supreme, absolutely shocking. I mean, you look at the likes of Altior, Nicky Henderson horses. Altior, who went off at 4-1 for the Supreme, went into that rated 153, had recorded the time figures, had recorded excellent RPR ratings. You go back to Shishkin, went off 6-1, went in there rated 100. Altior 155, Shishkin 153. Had done the time figures at Huntingdon, had done the RPRs. 6-1, he's 7-4. This is probably going to be a very strong year as well in terms of a Supreme. Last year's Supreme is probably the worst we've seen for a very long time, other than Appreciate It. We had literally no runners turn up for the race. I think it was a terrible race. And he was still rated, 154, something like that off the top of my head. So this horse has not achieved half as much as his fans would have liked him to achieve, and that, I'm afraid, is a fact.
Nice. So right, there's a couple of ways I want to spin it up like now, because obviously I'd like to poke you a little bit. I find it very difficult to be restrained and not talk, don't I? But I'm not going to say my take on Jonbon, although I am going to say it towards the end because I have some even more valid points. But sort of like the best thing to do for first is to look to go for the bits that maybe counter you, maybe not counter you, poke you a little bit. So they obviously did go very, very slow in the race. Well, we all know that, you've mentioned it, etc., etc. But when they turned in, he had them off some of them were being fucking ridden in a race where they've just walked for like a mile and a half, yet he was traveling and they're being ridden. So if in theory they've all gone slow, which it looks like they have, I don't know whether the speed picked up, you do the time stuff, but like he was the only one that was still on the bridle when they turned in, despite them going slow. So that bit where they like stepped up a level, like instantly at that turn, I was like fuck, he's a monster, because he's got them all off the bit in this type of a race. He just looked like he was a much better horse than all of them. Then obviously like the finish is slightly different can of worms. But was like, is that not a thing? Like, although he'd like the whole
yeah, he's got a nice turn of foot. He's got a sharp turn of foot. Of course he has. What he did in the race, according to the time, is he basically built it from just before 4 out. He basically built it, and then he's won the race between 4 and 2 out. And then from 2 out to the line, I know he was eased, but he wasn't eased for the whole of that. He was only eased in the last, 100 yards or whatever. But between that point, then he had slowed. So if that was happening, not from 4 out, between 4 out and 2 out, if that was happening from 6 out to the last, how much has he got left in the tank to be able to do that from 6 out to the last? If you can compare his 2 out to finish time with a horse that has run over 2 miles 5 and should be nowhere near the level of a Supreme Novice candidate. That would be my point. The point is yes, he had the ball off the bridle because he slowly quickened the pace from a favourable position at the front of the field. You know what I mean? And the be all and end all of it, to be honest with you, Dave, is that he's not beaten that much. We will look back at this race, I promise you, and we will look back at this race and then say that he's not beaten that much. It wouldn't surprise me if Colonial Mustard improved going up to 2.5 miles. I thought he was the one to sort of outside of Jonbon to take out the race, but I thought that he had again everything in his favour. And don't get me wrong, Jonbon's got a lovely way of going about racing. I mean, when he was coming around those bends and he was striding out, it was lovely. He's a really, really nice horse, but he's not achieved nowhere near the level that a supreme favourite should achieve, and that is the truth. But yeah, from just before 4 out, he's slowly quickened the pace. He's won the race between 4 out and 2 out, and then he's slowed to the line.
Okay. I mean, the only other thing really to say for like maybe a counter is obviously they talk about him being like a bit buzzy before the race, didn't they, and things like that. Although in the same breath, the amount of people that will be like, he's a very forward going horse. Well, is he really buzzy and backwards, or is he forward and he's like raring to go and he's a bit? There's like different comments that come from the TV pundits, which just winds me up about a horse like this. I saw him at Newbury. I didn't see him in the bumper. I saw him at the Winter Carnival meet, and part of the reason I wanted to go is because I want to see a horse like him in the flesh. He shows loads of white in the eye as well. Was like a bit worked up. Wasn't horrific really. Just looks like he's just there to race. Like a little bit looks like a horse that's possessed. But do you not think, because obviously he's lightly raced and maybe has got these like, people will like when they're like a horse is young and they're like inexperienced, people are quite happy just to wipe him off, saying that he's babyish, he'll come out of it. So if we go for the positive side and assume that all of a sudden he doesn't have all these little quirks and things, do you not think it's beyond the realms of possibility that he could improve another £10 before Cheltenham?
Yeah, I do think he could improve. I do, and that was the point. The point of the tweet, the point of the argument about him is that he does need to improve that £10. I'm not saying for a minute that he can't. I'm not saying he can't. He's got a lovely stride, lovely way about going about his race. Not saying he can't improve, but he does need to. But he's priced up as a horse that's already done it, and he hasn't. So, I mean, I see people saying to me, texting me, saying, "I'm backing Jonbon for the Supreme, just back Jonbon for the Supreme." But 2-1 and 9-4, and I'm thinking, you're mad, really. You know, he's got to improve, but you have to see a horse go at a proper gallop. Someone said, well, I think that all the jockeys are trying to get him all lit up before the off, so that's why no one's going. That's why no one's going to pace. It's not a coincidence that it happened at Newbury and it happened here. So that means that all those jockeys in the change rooms have to go and talk behind Aidan Coleman's back and say, "Come on, none of us are going to make the run. None of us could." Don't be stupid. That's ridiculous. I can't believe someone commented that. But
I mean, to be fair, I did think it in Newbury that's what they were doing. And my favourite comment, I actually can't remember it quite like word for word now, but Sam Twiston Davis went past and I can't remember what he said, so you can't quote me on this. Let's not get the PGA involved in the BHA investigation about it. But something along the lines of, what a bunch of fucking twats, they've ruined that race. He was the horse that was put off most by them pissing about at the start. And then Jonbon's gone and done it. But the thing is, with my point with that, is when they're doing this wind-up tactics, it doesn't help any horse.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help any horse. It hinders most horses. And specifically at Ascot, it hindered Colonial Mustard. That's who it hindered. And
Colonel Mustard, I've got to say it.
Colonel Mustard, whatever. It hindered him. And that's my point, is that these races don't benefit anybody. We could have learned a lot here, and we learned little.
Good.
Now, Jonbon's obviously got his fans, and they're going to... The thing with this is if you back Jonbon at 25-1, right, I have, but if you have backed him at those prices or bigger prices, no matter what I say to you, you're not going to have it. You're not going to agree. You're not going to have it because you are blinded by your anti-post bet that you've been such a good judge to get on at a big price. But the fact is that I have backed him at a big price, but I'm still saying this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this out of my pocket. I'm saying this because I work with facts, and these are the facts of what he's achieved. And there's no real discussion about it. It is what it is.
Right.
You know?
So, just to join you on the brigade, because instantly after the race, there's a couple of lads that I met fairly recently that, because I'm not doing the anti-post punting and I'm trying to stick a few bigger bets on. Obviously, when it comes to Cheltenham, I've got a purse of depends how many grand I want to bet. It depends how many bets come up, to be fair. I've got a purse of X amount of money that I'm happy to be slapping onto a few horses. And as soon as that race ran, and the bloke messaged me and said, he said 6-4 Hills, for fuck's sake. And obviously, I know he's bigger than that. Like, he's a 9-4 shot. Because of how far out it is now, potentially when he gets to Cheltenham, his price is going to get bigger. That's it's a fact. I'm sure he will be bigger by Cheltenham. He might even be beat before the time he even fucking gets to Cheltenham. I'll cover in some more stuff in there as well to add into the insults that you've already thrown at everyone. But after the performance, it's just a vile price. I think anyone, this is not to be rude to other people with another opinion, although it will sound exactly like that. I think anyone that's a half decent, he's a 9-4 player. But when I got this message saying he was 6-4, anybody that's a half decent judge would be laying Jonbon at 6-4 for a Supreme in the middle of December. Because, like you say, it's not even off the back of those performances. He's fucking put up a monster effort. It's easy with other horses.
He hasn't.
No, that's what I mean. He hasn't done it. He's done nothing. Absolutely, I say nothing. Obviously, he's beaten those horses in that race. He's done nothing to justify 6-4 to it. You know, when you listed names of horses, I still rue myself that Valtor got beat beat the Tullow Tank, and then he came to the Supreme, and I refused to back Valtor because I missed the 12-1, and you could still get 4-1 about the likes of Valtor on the day. Duvan was 2-1 for a fucking Supreme on the day, for fuck's sake. The thing with him, it is a fact. It's a stone hard fact. He is a terrible price. It's the same as if I said to you, here's a coin, heads or tails. You pick, but you get 1-2. It's a fact of life. You may get it right, you may win, but it's a fact of life. It is a shit price. So I'm with you till the cows come home on it. And then just to add insult to it, not to add insult, it just confirms more to what you're. I've got really animated about this. Just confirms more. The thing is, mate, it just wound me up yesterday when I saw it on Twitter and I saw people replying. Right, you don't bite anywhere near as much as you used to. I talk about when people put pictures of their tits and all that sort of stuff on Twitter just to get a reaction. You never put a tweet out there just to stir shit and get followers or anything out of it. You put it out there because it's you feel like it needs to be voiced, and you're only again, it's only an opinion, but you're putting it out there because you've got experience and you just want people to know you for. It's not to say I'm saying this, fuck everybody else. You're saying it because it's your opinion, but yeah, you got loads of slander for it, and it wound me up because some of the arguments that people make, they're okay, and this will sound really snobby as well, but I really don't give a fuck. I've been betting for donkey's years. I'm 35 now. I've been betting since I was about 12 or 13. Yeah. I know, way too old. Betting properly on the horses for the last 15 years. And again, this isn't to poo-poo other people. You don't have to have loads of years of experience to not notice things. But a lot of the comments that are coming back, they feel like they're coming from people that must lack experience in horse racing terms, because you can't just say something and it's no, but it's just some of the things that people will make mistakes with. So it's like I joked about this, right, because of Newbury and Ascot, and I sent this to 3 people to sort of prove the point. Sent it to 2 people that are judges. Well, I said one person's a proper judge, another person that's like a reasonable judge, and then another person who's literally just got into horse racing and hasn't got a fucking clue. I said, Jesus, you don't even know if Jonbon stays 2 miles because they've walked the first furlong of those last 2 races. The judge person just put lol, the middle judge person put lol, and the person that wasn't there was like, of course he stays, he ran 3 miles in a point. And I was like, oh, like you're missing the point. But again, people go into that stuff. And like, I always watch horses' points. Well, I say always. I watch horses' points that come from like big backgrounds, all that sort of stuff. And then it's easy for anyone to like pick and go through the form and stuff in it. And when your point you've made about the gallop, I think a few people have said back, like, go and watch his point, which like is a valid thing to say. But the sad thing about Jonbon's point, where he was like given a lead and things like that, the horses that like gave him a lead that day, one of them is rated 93 over hurdles. One of them has been bought by Gary Moore, was 100-1 in the Constitution Hill race at Sandown, and was basically pulled up. Like, they can't get near anything. So it's like the equivalent of like using that as like a bit of a loose example. That's like running a 100-meter sprint with me and you setting the pace, and then someone saying they can go a fast gallop just because there was 2 people in front of them. We're not Usain Bolt. I mean, I borderline am. But anyway, so yeah, so you like, and like, it's good to go back to point stuff to find things, but you have to, again, take them with a pinch of salt or whatever. His price tag was the fact that he did go and win emphatically. You can judge him in isolation, and his Duvan brother. Top Speed obviously do their ratings as well. So we've still got to get to Cheltenham. Jonbon, Nicky Henderson's already said it. He needs at least 1 more run. He's probably going to have 2 before Cheltenham is what he ideally wants. So like you were saying there, he could easily prove himself to be a 2-to-1 shot at Cheltenham. Yeah. But that's with the benefit of 2 more runs under his belt, whereas he's already priced like he's already gone and won those 2 and progressed forward. But from Top Speed ratings, it was 24 was given for Ascot, mate, and 33 for Newbury. Now I know they're a very like loose way of looking at like
they are good
racing and things like that. Good. Yeah, but they're like and it depends how things happen, because both those races hissed about at the start. That may have had a significant impact on all of it, because they may have done it from flag drop. I don't know, but basically the last however many like years of like supreme winners, when we talk about Top Speed stuff, like I don't know if I added appreciate into the query when I pulled this stuff out. Yeah, I've got appreciate in there. So appreciate it. Oh no, I haven't got his Top Speed in there. Anywho, of the top speeds that the other horses have recorded, basically on average of the ones I've got in there, like the average is 125. We've got horses in there that
Constitution Hill ran 123 on his debut after a 244-day break. His first ever start under rules. His first start over hurdles.
Exactly. But what? But the point of bringing that number in to begin with, like again, I know obviously the race will run slow. Everyone can see that, but the supreme winners would have clocked over 100 on the top speed. Like they should easily better get there. There's a few that do like a 106. There was a 99 in there as well. But like you want to be 130s plus with a top speed. So point number 1, he hasn't shown that he can do it yet. You are exactly right.
That's the point. But there
is no dispute. There is no dispute that he could do that, but he hasn't done it so far.
Exactly.
Although the dispute with the fact that he could do it probably does start to come when we start digging the bits of forms and stuff, doesn't it? The one like semi-red herring is Colonel Mustard, because he's a second season novice essentially. He didn't win a hurdle before. He's entitled to be more forward. So when you use them to the fact that he beat him a few lengths, he's beaten a second season novice fairly comfortably, but I'm with you. Like he's not a 144 rated horse. I know
but
people.
Also, sorry to jump in. If you watch Colonel Mustard's runs, though, everything he does, the end of the race is best part of the race. Everything. So he would not have been suited to that particular the way the race was run, and therefore he has not run up to his mark.
No, I agree.
That's how you judge form.
Yeah, but with him, because obviously he would have progressed, but he was beaten by Ballyadam in his maiden hurdle, 12 lengths by Ballyadam. Ballyadam has just been battered out of sight ever since, all those sorts of things. So Colonel Mustard will have improved, but Colonel Mustard probably is a one like in the 130s as a horse, I'd say. The other thing as well is I'd get so much abuse for these sort of stuff if I'd probably get sued for slander for some of the stuff that I say. You know, actually, speaking of that, when you said about Champ, all the form's been like franked after, not with City Island, was it? He must have run out of needles. But again, this sounds like it is snobbish and it is bad, like sort of thing to say. But Lorna Fowler is not going to have many horses in her yard that could even beat Willie Mullins' dog, could they? Let alone Willie Mullins' best novices. So again, like using it as a yardstick, I know it's not the horse I'm like bringing in trainers and stuff, but pish. Nappers Hill, I was really excited about the season. I genuinely thought he could be one of the best British horses. Then his debut at Chepstow, as much as Harry Cobden might have won at Cozy, and he almost got beat. Like the horse that came up like near him, if it had got to him a bit sooner, it could have been passed. So like Nappers Hill, the 130 mark that he is, everyone that's cooing about Jonbon, like if Nappers Hill doesn't run in a Betfair hurdle and the whole of Twitter does not remortgage their houses and back this horse off of 130 in the Betfair hurdle because Jonbon's going to win the Supreme, then they're ludicrous. But the best part is, none of them are going to have a house to go home and tweet you on because he probably won't win the Betfair off 130. But in their heads, he's already achieved those sort of things. Like it's forward thinking in a race. And don't get me wrong, like Duvan was a beast. Duvan's probably one of those horses. Like there's lots of them we think we've like don't see the full potential, like a Valtor, things like that. I think maybe the fact that Valtor got chinned by Q Card, Don Cossack fell in that King George, Don Cossack would have beat him. There's that sort of air of, well, maybe we do know like how close he would have been. Like he wasn't invincible. Whereas with Duvan, bar the injuries, like he's something like seriously special, even though he didn't really get to the championship standard or actually get the name on a plate. When Duvan won his debut, again, we've got the benefit of the fact that he did that years ago, and we know who the horses are now. But he battered Size and John by 12 lengths, so he like proper battered him. And then his grade 2 that he won, which was next time up, he proper coasted when he beat Alfred Azoba. Now, again, we know where those horses are now, so it's easy to look back on it. But Duvan went off at 2-1. He wasn't 2-1 straight off the back of that. He'd done some decent top speed figures. The Kennel Gate in isolation as a race as well. Nicky Henderson's had a few horses that go there and win it. I wonder whether because My Drogo won it last year and My Drogo is now everyone's best friend this season, everyone's going, oh, My Drogo won it last year, didn't go to Cheltenham, would have won the Supreme if he'd run. People are probably thinking their heads. He's had Angel's Breath that won it, and Angel's Breath was third. Maybe 6-1. I think Angel's Breath was when he went to Cheltenham and was just battered out of sight. We've had Claim and Taken Forgan, Lammy Surge. Well, Lammy Surge was pretty poor when he went to Cheltenham as well. Molotov got beaten at Martin Pipe off of like 140 something. So I know again I'm comparing different horses using this for like a Jonbon angle, but the Kennel Gate is historically a fairly shit race. It's a grade 2. It's a fairly shit race, and although this year looked like it could have been better, I think the performance at the end, rather than thinking, wow, it really was a good race on paper and Jonbon's blown him apart, I think the race probably wasn't that good, but Jonbon's gone and won, and Jonbon will progress. I probably would have been more impressed with Jonbon. We can't do anything about the pace, but I think I'd have been more impressed with Jonbon if he came off the bridle, something challenged him, and then he'd shown a bit to go past him. But I think it just... He just is a better horse than those horses that are in the race. Even I Like to Move that was all the way back. He's a 4-year-old with good turn 5.
Good as everyone thinks he is.
But he was given £5 away as well. There is no 4-year-old allowance, otherwise he would have got it. But if we talk about Supreme, 4-year-olds would get £8. And again, like I know I Like to Move, it's basically a 5-year-old, so it's not there. But you could switch £13 if you really want to go mental and hypothetically, and then that puts him. He's beat him a length. And then LS Bell was only getting £2. She'd get 7 off of him if she ran in the Supreme. So you'd bring her 5 lengths in. She was only getting 5 lengths. So I think that's what you're saying about the Nappers Hill. LS Bell's 132. If you use those numbers as normal, she was a neck behind Nappers Hill. That probably isn't around the 130s. The horses, their marks aren't far off. But if LS Bell had have got a £5 extra allowance, she was only beaten 5 3/4. We may have found out if Jonbon had loads and loads more in there. It could be good.
So rating the race around the 130 and 132 mark of 5 lengths, and then doubling that 5 lengths because he won ease down gives him £10, which puts him around 140. So you're being generous. We're being generous anyway. So look. Last point on this because I've got to go out. But last point is it not a slight concern that in both runs, considering how well he's won, that he's been a big drifter in the market?
Yeah, evens both times.
Especially if you look at Constitution Hill, who ran at Sandown the other week, and they fucking hammered him in the market. And I'm saying, I mean, they hammered him like it was a good thing, which he was.
When we were at Newbury, because he opened 1-4, didn't he, for Newbury? We were at Newbury, and I literally said to my mates that we were there with, we don't know enough about him, but I said to you, didn't I, after good risk at all ran at Chepstow, he does not want an obstacle, so he couldn't beat him, and he's a horse that doesn't want to jump anything. I don't think that bumper form is particularly as crazy as, like, you've already touched on it, but he really doesn't want to jump a hurdle, so he's like, he just won't ever achieve anything over hurdles. I don't think. Sounds a bit harsh, but that's the way that it is. But he still came second to Jonbon, so I think it shows how weak the race was. But yeah, even money you could get about him that day, like, you're taking a punt, but you hammer him. Even money in the Kennel Gate, we know it's a shit race. You hammer him at even money at Ascot. You do not hammer him at 2-1 for a Supreme, and he's going to get all these worldies. Because I don't like the 7-year-olds in the Supreme or the Ballymore, and I know I appreciated it last year. We know last year was a bit of an exception race, but Kilcrook 7-year-olds, Sir Gerhard 7-year-olds. As much as I don't like them, and I'd go against them for the 7-year-old stat, Kilcrook got beat, didn't he? Which he got beat. But if you go back and watch his, like, the bumper performance when he ran at Leopardstown, where he just travelled like an absolute monster, like, he's done something against horses that visibly, like, in your eyes, and it stacks up, was as a worldy performance. Jonbon today hasn't done anything of any significance to make these prices short as he is, and that is it. But obviously, everyone that's on him at big prices, fair play to you. He obviously he can go and improve. I personally do not think that he can improve enough for Cheltenham to win a Supreme. But there is not enough time for Jonbon to get the experience, especially on British soil, knowing how pants the racing is over here. Everyone seems to have forgotten that the Irish dominate. They've still got better horses that have already come out and run so far. We haven't got time to cover all the other ones in there. We've hopefully stirred the pot a little bit. That's not the point of doing it. It's just to make the factual case that he is a bad price. If you've backed him anti-post, happy days, you're sat on a nice ticket. But, like, just stop. Just don't back. Just don't do it. Don't put him in your multiples. Don't back him. Stop backing Jonbon. Although, on the other side of it, keep backing him so I can lay him at a short price in the day. He races in earplugs, mate. I don't even know someone will have the stats on that. Who's won a Supreme that races in earplugs?
Q 3.5 months time. Jonbon wins on the bridle at 8 to 11. This video gets shared everywhere.